Sidekick Media Services. We are your sidekick in business for social media, video production, and more. Find out more at sidekickmediaservices.com.
Hello, friends. I'm your pal in the mainstream media.
And I'm your Riz.
And you know, Riz, it takes years of strenuous, dedicated training before you're worthy to step inside a professional wrestling ring. But it takes even more time to develop complex, highly astute opinions about professional wrestling. Am I right?
That is correct. You know where we can find that?
Yes,
In the Wrestling Ham.
that's right.
Sidekick Media Services. We are your sidekick in business for social media, video production, and more. Find out more at sidekickmediaservices.com.
Hello, friends. I'm your pal in the mainstream media.
And I'm your Riz.
And you know, Riz, it takes years of strenuous, dedicated training before you're worthy to step inside a professional wrestling ring. But it takes even more time to develop complex, highly astute opinions about professional wrestling. Am I right?
That is correct. You know where we can find that?
Yes,
In the Wrestling Ham.
that's right.
This show is a member of the Sorgatron Media Podcast Network. Find out more at sorgatronmedia.com. This show is brought to you by Slice on Broadway, supporting Pittsburgh podcasting with the perfect pepperoni pizza. Production services by Sidekick Media Services. And listeners like you, supporting us at patreon.com/awesomecast. It's time to get geeky, get awesome. It is the AwesomeCast. I'm Mike Sorg at Sorgatron in the Sorgatron Media Studios in Pittsburgh, PA, on a special Mother's Day edition of the AwesomeCast this week. A little bit of traveling. We're going to Michigan to our usual yearly, twice yearly. We go to Michigan a lot. This time the Formula up at the Michigan International Speedway. We'll be live streaming again, having a big crew up there. So we're just going to take that off the deck for Tuesday as we're traveling for that event. And but I thought it was fortunate because we were looking at, hey, let's do some Sunday shows. And it was like, hey, it's Mom's Day. And so I think, is this the first time maybe on AwesomeCast, Mom Sorg's here? It's my mom.
I was here for Halloween.
You were here for Halloween. I don't know if it was officially AwesomeCast, though. I think we just did a stream at that point, right?
okay.
So I think it was a non-denominational stream for Halloween. So you're here. You're usually watching. You're in the chat
Yes,
room
I am.
usually, and I don't know how you know, just how you keep up with the kids, right?
Yeah, that's the only way I know where you guys are doing.
Okay, that sounds sad. Oh, jeez. Oh, no. But anyways, I don't call much, but at least I text. So
Yes, you do.
yeah, so there's that. But no, I was like, we just did a day at Kennywood. We did Mom's Day at Kennywood today, and we've been talking about Kennywood actually the last few weeks because Katie and I have been going and got our season passes and really excited about like how some of the new stuff they have over there and really the benefits. It's really easy to go if you have a game a a pass now, a gold pass now. That's your first time there since you played there a couple years. I think 2022 is when I think I found it in my photo album.
I think it was
So
2022,
I was kind of curious because we really just kind of went in, did that, watched the Wiener Dogs race, and that was
Yeah.
maybe got some Dippin' Dots, and we rolled out, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just wondered what were your
Oh,
thoughts of the park? And obviously you've seen the park a lot longer than I have.
It was to me. It's very clean now. I mean,
Yeah.
it was looking pretty dungy there,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was just such a nice, calm day for being Mother's Day and being a nice day.
Yeah.
So,
It seems like I thought it was going to be busier. I thought it was going to be way busier
I thought
today.
so too.
Yeah, but apparently not as many moms like roller coasters. So I kept trying to talk mom into getting on the Steel Phantom Revenge.
No.
But you did Turtle.
Yeah, I did do the
You
turtle.
did Turtle. We did some carousel. We did that. Mom now has the super official important slip that gets you on rides
Yeah.
now. So
Yeah, handicap slip.
yeah, you have your built-in Speedy Pass, so
Yeah.
that's kind of nice. So so what did you ride? You rode a lot of stuff today that you've probably never rode before. That's either newer or or anything like that, or you just haven't had an interest with when you were there before. What really kind of the things that we rode? What kind of stuck out for you?
But there's the haunted thing.
The Ghostwood Estates, I believe it is.
Yeah, the one that we had to go up. I had to go up the elevator. in.
I wish I knew. It's one of those kind of installed elevators, and I didn't realize there was no top to it because I got up and I was like, oh, there's the elevator. And then I just see their heads because Missy rode up with her, and I just see their heads rise up slowly. And I'm like, I really wish So you got an additional ride.
Yes, I did.
Because all the thing is upstairs. You have to go up these steps and stuff like that. So so you got to do the elevator situation. So I thought that was so funny. That you got to ride the old mill, which I think
Yeah.
you said you'd never been on the Garfield version of it.
I may have been.
Okay.
But I think we were going to when we were here last, but the line was too long,
Maybe. Yeah.
and I didn't feel like it was just too hot, and
yeah.
it was just too hot that day.
So pretty.
But we did get to see the running of the dachshunds.
We saw the Wiener Dogs. Yes. So awesome. Anything else from today that really kind of stuck out?
Well, it took me the second try on the merry-go-round to figure out how to get up on the horse because I was getting up on the wrong side.
Yes. So, I mean, it was nice. And I got to say, I've never, obviously I've seen other people set up and things like that. I appreciate the accommodations they do make for that handicap slip that you
Yeah.
have. You do have a handicap placard, and it's more just kind of like distance and walking and steps are
Yeah.
your issues, and,
Yeah.
and long distance and things like that. Like the hill coming back, we're probably gonna get you a cart next time, to be honest. just
That hill,
if nothing else, for the hill at the end that you have to go back to your car.
That hill is like, and I thought they would have golf carts just running people back
yeah,
and forth.
yeah.
Like Dollywood. Dollywood had go karts running you around.
Yeah. We gotta definitely. I think we're just. And you know what? I don't mind it honestly, because I was looking through everything today, seeing what we could do to make your trip better today, because I know Dollywood became a little bit overwhelming when we went.
Yeah.
And personally, like, I'm appreciating the problem solving of trying to figure it out.
Especially taking an older parent with you now.
Yeah, like you should be able to come and have fun with us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and
I'm
eventually,
I'm not young like I was back when we went to Waldemar days.
No. You were just on everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So-
even rode the roller coasters back there.
Yeah, exactly.
Except for the boat thing.
Except for the boat thing.
Yeah.
Which boat thing?
The one that went swing back and forth.
Oh, the pirate ship. They got one
Yeah.
of those there. I don't even think you walked by it this time. I know we walked near it, I think,
Yeah.
right? So we were trying to figure out Noah's Ark. We did a FaceTime. I did a FaceTime from Noah's Ark while she was sitting in the potato patch. So 'cause I know that's one you wanted to see, but it was just like you're going down steps with the boat rocking. I just didn't think it was going to work. And so
No,
you
I
got to
wouldn't.
see it, and you got to see why it was going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Too. So,
Yeah, I couldn't have done that.
There's some accessibility in there, but I feel like the fun parts, you'd avoid all the fun parts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like I love. There's a towards the end. You remember we were in that one. Remember the glowing parrots on like the seesaw room? That's actually on a tilt. That entire room. And I love. There's a sign going to it. You can go the mild way or the wild way. So they play with it a little bit.
Yeah.
So, but it's good for people to probably get vertigo and things like that,
Yeah.
right? So, but no, I do appreciate the things they do with those older rides.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I did like with the train how they had the handicap ramp for
Yep.
wheelchair,
Yep.
just like Dollywood.
Yep.
Really.
Yep. Of course, Dollywood was a bigger full size train.
Yeah.
But
I mean that was.
Yeah.
And especially people with older handicapped children.
Yeah.
They have to take care of.
There was a girl behind. Did you see the girl behind us at the train? Like there was a blind. There's a blind.
The little girl was
the
blind. I was wondering why they
little girl.
and she was blind.
Yeah. It was a God. She was probably what do you think? Like 5, 4,
Mine 4
something
or 5,
like that. Yeah. And she had the sunglasses and the cane and stuff and everything. So, but that was.
I thought it was for her mother, but here it was for the little girl.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that was it was nice to see everybody enjoy it, regardless. So that's really really nice. So the reason I want to have you on, it's Mother's Day. You're here, and you've been watching in the chat room and stuff. But I wanted to talk to you about. And because I think I mentioned this on the show. I know I mentioned this in other worlds about obviously I'm a very tech focused person with my career and everything that we do, and I love to tinker and things like that with what we do, and I attribute a lot of that to my upbringing. So I was exposed to a lot of really cool things. Dad was a machinist in the foundry. You are a drafter, AutoCAD drafter. So I would always come along. You would go to work and we'd just be surrounded by these computers and these giant draft printers that were I just loved seeing watch go back and forth. Whenever I loved it when you had to print something out,
And it was a pen that did that then.
And it was a little pen. It was an array of several little pens depending on the how many colors there were. And of course they're mostly line drawings and things like that because they're just the plans for like building a house or a church or something, right? So I thought that was always something there, and we were very fortunate. We got I think the first family computer in like something like 93 comes to mind.
Yeah, and you tore it apart and put it back together.
Oh yeah.
And you had to show your teacher how to run a computer.
Oh, there was that happened too, yes, because I was doing that. It was a MS-DOS, Windows 3.1. I remember it was very high-end for the time. It had 486. I remember you were really proud that you got the one that we could have put the Pentium chip if we wanted to, too. That was just coming out. So, but we never did. I think I looked at it, and by the time we were going to, and I was looking at upgrading it, it didn't make sense. And it was like, well, let's just buy a new one kind of thing. So, which was like some three.
So how many computers do you think we've ever went through?
Me? I mean, that's I can probably, if I sit down, it's expounded here. I got 2 under the desk right now, usually a laptop here. I got how many in the back? I got how many in those bags over there for production? It's been a lot at this point. So
I think it's my 4th one at home.
Your 4th one at home?
Yeah, because I got 3 still down in the basement.
Since
I got my first gateway.
Okay. So you have that, and I want to talk, maybe just a little background, like the age when you got into computers and drafting. This was not like it was still like a newish thing at the time, right?
Yeah.
So what does that look at? Well, first, like how old were you when you were starting to go into this side? How did you kind of decide to like go into computer-aided drafting CAD
that
to
was
begin
your grandmother's
with?
doing.
It's your grandmother's doing. Okay, tell me a little bit. Tell me the story.
Well, I used to do it on the board, and then the computers came in down at the Mercer County.
Okay. Well, then let's roll back. How did you get into drafting?
Way back in high school.
Okay.
Yeah, they wouldn't let me take it the first year because I was a girl.
Okay. And what year is this?
1969. 1969.
1969.
I was
So
going in 10th grade.
you're in high school. So they had drafting classes in high school.
Yeah.
And that is Moon Township, I believe,
Yeah.
at this
yeah.
time? Okay.
And the counselor down in the junior high said I couldn't take it because I was a girl.
Mm-hmm.
Going into the high school, and the counselor there said, "Why didn't you take it this year?" I said, "Because I was told I wasn't allowed to."
Mm-hmm.
She goes, "Why did she tell you that?" I go, "Because he looked at my aptitude. He goes, you got the highest aptitude in the school
Mm-hmm.
for mechanical draft for mechanicals."
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "Yeah," but it's because I was in the dumb class. They said I couldn't take it.
So you found yourself in this situation, and obviously, in that age, in that time
And
period, they didn't
They
have
segregated. They segregated.
the segregated
the smart.
based on their understanding of smart and not smart.
Yeah.
The gifted and lower
Yeah.
end, and that obviously that's been evolved over time, right?
Yeah.
And there's more accommodations and they understand a little more what's going on. So you were kind of labeled as the lower end
Yeah.
schooling.
Yeah, and that's why they didn't
functionality.
they didn't excel me in math, even though I was getting straight A's.
But because you kind of got labeled with this.
Yeah.
So you had this thing where you were labeled on that, but then you excelled at this one thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was two things I excelled at:
Okay.
that and music.
There you go. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you're going through this. You get to high school. They won't let you take it because you're a girl. Like, how did you finally break through that?
Because that's what the counselor said. You can take it.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly because I wanted to go to Faux Tech, and being I didn't have the math that I should have had.
Mm-hmm.
If they would have put me ahead in math.
And that's just a matter they didn't
Yeah,
push you into
I didn't
it.
have the classes to go to Parkway Tech to take the drafting.
Mm-hmm.
So I took it at school for 2 years. I was the first girl.
Mm-hmm.
I will say the guys sometimes weren't nice to me.
But it almost expected at that period, unfortunately.
They weren't. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and well, then I went to Triangle Tech.
Mm-hmm. And this is also, I think it's worth background here. Your brothers and sisters all have some sort of
Right.
technical background.
So did your grandfather.
And grandfather's an electrician, worked for Duquesne Light.
Yeah.
I think learned it with the Merchant Marines during Korea, if I'm not mistaken. I think
He
is the
was
story.
in the Navy and
Mm-hmm.
the Marines. He was in the Marines.
I think it's Merchant Marines. I think that's a
Yeah,
different
he was
thing.
in there first. then-
Somebody will correct me out there, I'm
yeah,
sure.
yeah. Cynthia understands
Okay.
better. I don't remember.
Right.
She's got how he went to one to the other.
And then you so he's very technical. Your brother and sister went to CMU.
Yeah.
Worked respectively at Corning and Procter and Gamble. At some pretty. Was it
No,
Procter and
that's
Gamble?
John's at Procter and Gamble.
Yeah. Oh, it's like no, respectively.
Yeah.
Corning and Procter and Gamble between the two of them.
And Cynthia's husband was at Corning.
Yes. Brother was in. Another brother went to follow Grandpa's footsteps in the Duquesne.
Yes, he did.
And was
He
an
worked-
electrician.
Ended up with Duquesne Light.
Was he
took welding.
also is he also a pole climber?
No.
Because I remember Grandpa would climb the poles and do that work
Oh,
at the
yeah,
time.
yeah,
So,
and people with all that electric that was on,
yeah.
and people was complaining because they weren't coming. I said my dad was one of those ones that
Yep.
was called out in the middle of the night
Yep.
to climb those poles to fix your lights.
Yep.
He only got 8 hours of sleep, then he had to go back out for another.
Yep. And that's
12 hours or
that's
something.
pretty much what we went through. I saw Michigan. I think it was I think it was like Michigan Power was down the
Yeah.
rood here still because there's
Yeah.
still a few houses.
Yeah,
in
I
the
mean
cut.
when he was,
Yeah.
and he'd do that in the freezing cold,
Mm-hmm.
and we have pictures of him up this pool.
Is Dave Dave doesn't do that?
No,
I don't think they actually climb the pole. I think that it is
He
like
was
they're
more
in
on the
buckets
ground.
and
He
stuff.
took care of the transformers.
Yes, because I remember he would tell us about. He told us that we have some of the worst power transformers in the city
Yes.
over here. It's basically put together by tinfoil. It's like I'll think no more when my power just goes out on a sunny day all the time. And then the other brother was in IT. And
Oh
was
yeah,
very,
Dawn
very,
did drafting.
and
Yeah.
was very well. He's doing drafting as well.
Yeah, Don did drafting. Yeah.
Okay, I only knew about he was more IT technical.
Yeah, he was
kind of
IT
thing.
technical for drafting, but she
Okay.
took the computers.
Okay. Because
Okay.
I thought he was like support.
Yeah, he
for
was a support
companies.
for
Okay.
doing the AutoCAD.
Oh, I didn't know that connection. I thought he was
Yeah.
simply like a tech support guy.
No,
okay.
he was for.
But he specialized in the AutoCAD. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. So you get through this. You're doing drafting, like physical drafting. At what point do you go through VoTech for this?
Yeah, and you were young in high school, and Mom said you better go. Ended up getting a job with someone that I met there. We worked out of the basement and got little jobs here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And then AutoCAD came in.
Mm-hmm.
The first AutoCAD, which was
Probably about
used
what
to-
year?
Trying to think. That was before. That was about when. I'm trying to think. That was before Matthew was born,
Okay.
or just before Matthew was born. So that was before
Okay.
'88.
So were you going to vote? Wait, were you going to VoTech and something?
I was going to VoTech. You were young,
Okay.
and it was like 3 courses. I think it cost like $300 per course.
Okay. Which is
His
early
mom,
19
which mom's the one that's paid for that.
That's early 1980s money. Yeah, so for scale.
Yeah.
Yes. Because
Yeah.
I was born in 81.
Yeah. It was after you were born.
Mm-hmm.
And then I worked over in Ohio for a while, and then when I went over there, it was like 95
Mm-hmm.
till 2000. Then I went down here and worked for an architect, which that's what I want to do is in architecture.
Yeah.
That's what I took. Was architecture. I worked at Javot drawing towboats and barges.
Mm-hmm.
Worked for a company that did Packard Electric, made electronics for them,
Mm-hmm. mm-hmm.
and those were basically it.
I think this is where this story comes in that we recently discovered. You know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We're chatting, and of course, I've talked about a lot on this show about in the last year I've kind of discovered and became a Disney adult, right?
Yeah.
And we're doing this, and then I'm sitting down with Mom. We're having lunch somewhere, recently. I'm going to talk about all the travel and stuff, and she's like, I think I worked on something like that. And it's like, what'd you work on? It's like this big, I don't know, ball or something. I'm like, the Epcot ball, Mom? And I showed her a picture, and she's like, yeah, that thing. Yeah, that thing.
I drew this one little part for it.
It's a little part for it. But still, she forgot about it.
I never put on my resume because it wasn't there that long, and it was a guy that worked out of this one little office.
It's so.
And I was still going to drafting school, and
She
drafting.
tells me this, and I'm like, Mom, I watched Wonderful World of Disney every single week on Sunday nights, where they talked about it and they showed the Disney, they showed the ball, and Michael Eisner's telling about how great it is to go to Disney and Hollywood, down there and everything. And just, to me, it's just a far off place that I was never going to go. That's why I cried when I saw the damn castle when I was like 42. Okay. And I'm like, you mean you worked on this thing? So we did go to Epcot last year, finally, like late last year. And I was like, I took pictures of the ball, and I'm like, you worked on that. So we have to get Mom on a plane because I'm not driving down there, and so she can go see the thing that she worked on, even if it was just a little part for it.
So you realize that it was in the 80s when it was being built?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were working on. I was alive when you did this. I just connected that. Right? You're still drafting?
No, I was still going to Triangle
So it's
Tech.
still before.
Yeah,
I
that-
keep forgetting what year it opened.
Yeah, no.
It was late 70s,
No,
wasn't it?
no, it was before that, 70s.
Okay.
73, 74, yeah.
Okay. So this is the fun that we have. so I thought that was it, and I probably, you saw my fascination when I was in office in that basement back home, which you were working in, and seeing all the computers, and I'm sure I wanted to touch a lot of stuff that I wasn't supposed to, and things like that. So, but yeah. So I just thought that was fascinating. I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about that. I know driving around back home or in Beaver, you're in Beaver now, working up in Beaver County. And, previously up there, we were from Greenville, Mercer County originally, area, not specifically Greenville, but relatively. You would go around, and I just remember there's one across the bowling alley because I was in junior league there, and you're like, "I worked on that church, I worked on this, and we get that. I get that, hey, I did a piece of that. I helped them with their expansion, kind of thing. You would always be really proud to tell me about that, and still do to a certain point. Is there anything that you worked on that you're really proud of, or really was like, oh, cool, I got to work on this, other than the damn Epcot ball. Let's put that aside for the moment.
There's many houses.
Okay. Including our own.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the one that laid that all out for your dad to build.
For those background, through much of my early life, that I never understood how weird, how potentially strange it was until I had to explain it to other students. We lived in half of a house, and a trailer was attached to it, because we had not yet finished the rest of the house all those years. And so that was most of what I remember in my childhood until we finally slid the trailer out, gave it to my cousin, or was it my uncle at the time down the street?
No,
it was my cousin took it. Okay, my cousin Dan, who we lived next to a junkyard,
and
basically.
He's still living in it.
He's still living in it. And then we built the rest of the house, and then I finally had my own room. So, and I was the last to get my room was the last to be finished, by the way. So that was fun. But so it was, and now that house is gone to the wind, unfortunately, through circumstances. But still, but anyway, so what other things are you, proud and happy to have worked on?
I mean, there's a couple high-end houses. I mean, $1 million houses that I've built. Many businesses down in Beaver I've renovated and built a couple buildings. My big thing right now is the $3 million church expansion out in Chippewa. Then there's the rebuild of our church that we lost.
That's right. You had a fire at this church. There was the church's name is
New Salem Presbyterian out in Ohioville. It's been on the news many times.
Yes.
And I'm doing the drawings for the rebuild of our church. Very
fortunate that they have you, obviously as part of the church, and you still do music with them as well, so you're very active. So no, it's very cool. Like you're a builder. You're literally a builder.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. And you're still doing it, as you're semi-retired and everything, right? For as long as, for a bit
as long as Larry's alive.
Well, there's that. So yeah, no, that's really cool. And you live with your dogs and you do your drafting and
you got the dogs.
And you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
So I just think it's really cool. And especially that story. I mean, I know it's a stretch, but I think about the movie. You ever see the movie about the black women that worked on the mathematics for the shuttle that actually made it to the moon? No, I think it's called Hidden Figures.
No,
and they're obviously they didn't get a lot of public praise for obvious reasons. And you ran into your version of that in that age as well. So
especially
it was
with the learning problems I had.
Absolutely, which again, nobody.
Pretty much, I'm really dyslexic.
Yeah. But we probably didn't know that back then, right?
No.
Yeah.
And
have you been officially diagnosed as dyslexic?
No, but I know. I think Mom knew.
Okay. Well, she probably knew something was up.
Yeah.
If there wasn't a word for it
and we knew
yet.
Dad was.
Okay.
Well, actually, we knew that Dad was. I think Cynthia figured that out later on.
Okay.
And
in retrospect, when you're like, oh, hey, there's this condition that is X, Y, and Z, and you're just like, that's this person, and we would have never ever known about it, because it didn't exist to anybody. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like people say hey, why is there so many autistic people now? It's because we didn't have a word for it in that time.
Yeah.
They were just weird and we knew we couldn't deal with them or something, right? So it was how it was perceived, so I think that's really cool because a lot of people, I'm sure a lot of people were unfortunately cast aside and didn't find a path like you did in that era. And I think that's really important to see that. Like, that's really cool. And I'm you know, more and more I learn about this story. I'm proud of you for getting through that, you know, and obviously that laid the groundwork for everything that I can do today, you know, and that's what's really cool.
Yeah.
So
moving down here is where I was really, I mean, being in Greenville, I wasn't going to do.
It's not a lot of access. Yeah.
I would love your dad to move down here with, but he didn't want to come.
No. That was kind of a thing with me. I knew I couldn't do what I wanted to do up there. What would I do back home? Because there was just nothing, you know. If I wanted to do video, I would have been doing like dance recitals, making $20, you know, and then working at Walmart like everybody else. So, but I knew the opportunity was moving closer to the city, and obviously, thankfully, you didn't have to go straight into the city. You're in Beaver County.
Into the city, but the opportunities were there out in Beaver County. So,
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's everybody that doesn't want to live in the city and build something, right? Is up there in Beaver County, Moon Township, where you grew up, you know.
I mean, and
you are originally, you know, also like qualify. You were originally a city girl too. You're from over in Sheridan originally.
Yep.
And both our parents were my grandparents, your parents were city children of immigrants. You know.
I don't know about Mom.
She might be a couple generations.
Yeah.
But I know grandfather's story very well.
His parents came from Lithuania.
Yep. He was the first one born here.
Yeah. Well, no, he was the third one.
He was the third one born here. Okay.
I think he was the third one or fourth.
One of the first ones born. Because there were several siblings.
Yeah.
I only know 2 of them, I think. Right? Two? It's Uncle Jim.
Uncle Jim, did you know?
I don't remember.
You probably met Aunt Virginia. Aunt Virginia somewhere.
The priest is on your mother's side. No, that's dad's. Okay, granddad's.
That's mom's.
That's mom's side. Oh yeah, I know.
That's mom's side. That's a step thing.
It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing we will not get into. Uncle. He's not a real uncle.
But I like to throw it to him. He's around. If I see him around his church, it's like, hey, Uncle Billy. It's like. I just like to rub it in. I'm running.
And that was a wild thing for me because we didn't grow up Catholic, but being around it, I was just like, why are we so like mean to the priest at this thing? I don't know, who is this guy? Am I related to him? Am I related to a priest? You know.
Well, let's just say he was never going to be Pope.
On that note, that's the button right there.
Well, that's what Grandma always said. He was never something happened that he did, and she always said he's never going to be Pope now.
And it's so funny since that's actually kind of a possibility now, right?
And
like the first American just got elected.
He would never be a bishop either, because it's like goes from priest,
There's a
bishop,
whole thing.
cardinal,
Yep.
then
Oh my God, I love. I'm sorry. I'm just taken back by the religious shade during this. So I'm going to make sure I don't clip this part. Jeez. Mom, Kathy, or the other, Mom Sorg. We see in the chat room. Now people can put a face to it and they know your background and why you're popping up in that chat room on your iPad. Probably sitting in your chair on the iPad with the dog with the dog curled up next to you. Dog's still curled up next to you though.
No, I'm in bed.
Yeah, so I guess it is past your bedtime at that point at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
So, all right, thank you so much, and thank you guys. Hope you enjoyed this kind of sidewalk adventure for the AwesomeCast. Again, we'll be back. We should be back to our regular times here for at least a couple weeks after this for the rest of May. We do have a lot of travel happening in June, so we might be dancing around that, which means we always forget to celebrate our anniversary. I don't know what year we're on right now, so because that's usually the first or second week of June. I think June 10th is a date that sticks in my brain, and maybe we will do something.
June
I don't know.
June 5th.
June. That's my anniversary.
Oh.
I'm talking about the show anniversary. Is like the week after it.
Okay.
So, yeah, no, we were talking about my anniversary, and I'm not going to be around, unfortunately. So, but I mean, that's why we did something in November last year for the Disney and everything. And I think that's what we're doing. I think we're doing something similar this year as well. Just a collective, like, hey, kind of thing. But thank you so much, everybody. Tune in, check us out on the social medias, AwesomeCast all over the place. Check clips all over our TikTok and Instagram, things like that. And we'll see you guys next time. Until then, you have been our awesome audience. Say hi to your awesome moms. That says weird. It's weird. Call your awesome moms. Let's try it that way. And have an awesome week. This show is a member of the Sorgatron Media Podcast Network. Find out more at Sorgatron.